Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa. On today's episode, we're excited to welcome back prize-winning author and writer Author-Heather-Mateus-Sappenfield. Did I get that right, Heather? Did I do it?
Awesome.
I did it. I get 10 points. We're excited to welcome you back. The last time you were on the show was with your short story collection, Lyrics for Rock Stars. And now you've got a brand new middle grade novel out, and it's on friendship, it's on healing, and everyone, it comes out February 1st through Fitzroy Books Regal House, and it's called The River Between Two Hearts. So you can go to Heather's website, Heather-Mateus, there it is. Let me get it back straight. See, I don't correct myself. Heather-Mateus-Sappenfield.com. I'm just making sure everyone knows, remembers how to type this in. So it's Heather, M-A-T-E-U-S, Sappenfield.com. Go check it out there. So welcome back. How are you?
I'm great. And I'm so happy to be with you ladies again on the show. It was a pleasure last time. And I'm feeling incredibly fortunate coming through a pandemic with two books that have won publishing contests and have come out. So I'm really, really feeling just like blessed right now.
Yeah, because I know you rocked it with lyrics for rock stars, right? You really did rock it, literally.
Yeah. And that book isn't finished yet. The audiobook version of it was narrated by the fabulous Michael Crouch, and it won an Earphones Award from Audiophile Magazine.
Cool.
And then shortly after that, he was nominated a Golden Voices narrator, and now it is up for a Sovis Award, which is the Academy Awards of voice narration. So that'll be at Guggenheim in New York City on December, I think it's the 18th, 19th, it's a Sunday. And I'm going to cheer Michael on, and it's like I wrote the script and he's going to, get that award. Yeah. Red carpet, and I've got a gown, and it's so exciting. So
I love this. She's going to leave the cabin and go out in a gown.
Leave the cabin.
In a gown. Okay, is this technically a cabin or a tiny house cabin? Like, is it like, can you take your tiny house and put it on the back of a truck and go?
No, it is firmly on the ground. It's just tiny.
It's tiny. That's cool though that you're in a log cabin. I mean, it's like, how Colorado can you get?
Right. Yeah, it is. The one and only thing I would say that surprised me when we moved into this log cabin is these logs are dry, and we live in a dry place anyway. So I started using a lot more lotion. Literally, it was drier in this house. It was a surprise for me, but one of my jokes about myself, because I love trees so much, is that I'm a slow moving tree.
Well, you know what? We're huge tree people, and we're kind of on this bandwagon. American Forest has done this amazing program of, just through satellite work, taking like real photographs and satellite imagery of our tree canopies across the country. And you can go on there at treeequityscore.org or treeequity.org on their website, put in, find where you are and see, do you have the amount of trees you need in your neighborhood, and even right down to your doorstep, to achieve tree equity for our carbon footprint. And also, basically we're finding, and it kind of ties into your book, that we don't have trees in neighborhoods that really need them financially. So it's really a social issue. It's just in underprivileged neighborhoods and, things like that. But if we have a fancy new park, here we are, the park people, we'll go put trees and so the la-di-das get the trees, the non don't. And so it creates more health issues. And it's a sad issue, but if we planted more trees, there's over 300,000 jobs just waiting.
Really?
So American Forest is doing this huge initiative. I know that it's part of what's going on with the Build Back Better bill, and just amazing. So, but it is interesting about what happens. I know your story connects in with what happens to our immigrant friends and families that move into our country and what they go through. And that's what happens. You'll go into a neighborhood and you won't get the trees. You see, so it's, what I mean, right?
Yes.
There is a tie.
The wealthier neighborhoods will get the trees to create a barrier so they don't have to look
the
at
Privacy Act.
Yeah, or they don't have to see the neighborhoods that aren't so wealthy.
Fortunate, yeah.
But there is one thing though, the wealthy neighborhoods get not necessarily the native trees. They get exotics, which are always more costly, both in purchasing them and taking care of them. Yeah. So, you know, in some of the other native neighborhoods, you get native trees, which is far better for everyone.
Yeah, we were in
You see how that works.
Certain cities, like, you know, where you are, Vail, in beautiful Colorado, there's beautiful trees, and but then you'll go into some neighborhoods and you think just, oh, trees everywhere, and it's not true. So we just traveling across the country, we'll be in areas that are just tree, and then you'll go to the other side of the tracks. There's no trees, and yet you'll be like surrounded by a national forest or whatever, and they don't even have tree equity because just on the neighborhood that they're in. So it's a very interesting thing about how we take care of people and what
at the end of the
through.
day, we need the trees to be everywhere just to breathe. So, you know, like, oh, the wealthy have trees over here and 2 streets over, these people don't. It's really hurting everyone.
Interesting.
And we need trees for books.
Yes.
We need trees for books.
Fabulous side effect.
That was another like tie in there, but you know, tell us a little bit about this, because you know, this is, I know you've written 2 young adult novels, now you're going middle grade, and I think that's a really interesting time frame. Like, I remember as a kid, I was really like a voracious reader at that time, not quite young adult yet, like just, but having those ideas and really starting to think. I think as a young girl, that was a time where I thought I knew stuff. Then when I was a teenager, early teenager, I really thought I knew stuff. But you're at that beginning of thinking, and you're not naive. You're naive, but you're not, I think, at that age. It's a very interesting age.
It is. It is. I can't remember the name of the editor at a publishing house once described the differences between middle grade and young adult, in that in middle grade books, you're figuring out the world. That's what the characters are doing. They're figuring out how the world works and their place in it. And they're starting to feel like they know a lot, but they're really, their minds are agile and hungry for knowledge about that in the world and defining themselves. But then you get into young adult, and the books are more about, okay, this is the world and where do I fit in it? And I don't, a lot of times I don't feel like I fit in it. And, you know, where am I going to be in all this? What's my place? And so that's where the angst comes from, is from that fiction or that friction in young adult books about, oh my gosh, where do I fit? And so often there's this disconnect at that age where you feel like you don't fit, you don't have enough friends and things like that. And then you get into adult books, and, you know, it's the world is like this. The world's a rough place. And there's looking back with nostalgia and all those as a kid, and sort of this kind of despair that can settle in. So, you know, those are kind of the 3 tiers, and, you know, they're not hard set, but they tend to be, you know, a general guide for those places. So the minute you start getting into nostalgia, that's kind of the line between YA and adult. If you're looking at
things keep changing so fast too, especially with the internet. Like what would be a middle, you know, book for like 20 years ago is definitely not going to be the same today.
Right. But at the same time, I think marketing has become so delineated that some of the books that have been our classics that we've loved, I don't know where they would fit or what would happen to them today. Like To Kill a Mockingbird, what would happen to that book? You know, what would it be? Because it's got, you know, a middle grade narrator on her adventures, and we're right with her in the moment. You know, it just into a bunch of different niches. And so I think that sometimes these distinct lines we have with books and marketing don't always necessarily serve creating a great book.
That's why we're the big blend.
That's right.
Exactly.
Because, you know, even though we have all these different topics and we have to package them little pretty, you know, we're having these different magazines we're launching. Here's your art, here's your music, here's your history. We still, you know, color over the lines. And that's something I think is so important, because the world does not work that way. It just does not work, black and white, in the lines, just
And
doesn't.
people don't work that way.
And if you don't cross the lines and cross over, you lose understanding and empathy.
Right.
You really do.
Exactly.
Well, also pushing forward. If you don't cross the line, how do you move forward?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that ties back into your story. So give everyone a little bit of a preview, because, just losing a father in a river, and I mean, going,
Spoiler alert.
Oh, was I not supposed to say that? Was it a river?
Okay.
No, it wasn't. It was a pond.
Well, do you want the little short talk? I recently at a Booksellers Association, so no worries. But for
I
especially, they might not really get that. But so basically, on the first official day of summer vacation, almost 11-year-old Rill follows her cat Clifford to her tree fort, and she is.
See, it goes back to trees.
Yep. Exactly. And her father's been gone for a little over a year. And at the tree fort, she discovers a stowaway, Perla. And as she uncovers and reveals and learns things about Perla and her life, she ends up going on an adventure, basically, within herself and learning about herself in ways that push her and help her toward healing, but also help her family and everyone else she loves towards healing.
Yeah, I read the whole book, which I try to do with all the books we have to read. And sometimes you just can't read all of them all the way through.
And sometimes you shouldn't, because we'll say things we shouldn't.
You say things you shouldn't. But I found it, I mean, even though you wrote it for middle grade, I really found it should be a movie, and I think it should be an adult subject too, because I was thinking back to raising Lisa in different countries and different friends that I had, adult friends that had different prejudices against different kinds of people, and how I would, like how Lisa would navigate her own thing with kids her own age of all different races on her own without me saying anything, and how the other children navigated schools where, like, especially in South Africa, where people were separated. It's in different kinds of cultures, like in Kenya, where people were not separated, and just letting Lisa like who she liked and dislike who she didn't like on their personal attributes or the way they treated her, and watching that, and then watching children who were taught who to like and who not to like. And it is interesting, and I felt that your book really went there, as far as I think parents should read it. I really do.
Yeah, I'm hoping that people of all, I've been calling it a read for all ages and a read for our times.
Yeah.
Because I feel as though it may be told by an almost 11-year-old who has not had a lot of direction about who to like and who not to like. She's very naive. So it takes all politics out of it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just her perceptions as a child navigating school and what she's observed. And then when she steps beyond those boundaries and those lines, what she learns. And I'm hoping that does create some sort of a guide or a lesson for people as they read the book. I also hope, I feel like especially adults, when they read middle grade books, they feel like they're for children, right? So their guard's down a little bit more. Also it's written.
Oh yeah, you open up a little. Yeah.
And also the messages, though I think books for middle grade can be just as rich as an adult novel. They're written in a way that's decoded easier, right? In slightly easier language. And so the adults come in, and one, it's easier language. Two, their guard's down a little bit, and they can just read, and the message can go straight to the heart.
Right.
And it
You're
can
more
go
relaxed when
in.
you read something simpler. Like I think these days we need those kind of reads just to decompress a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It also comes off more honest.
Yes.
There's no hiding behind big words.
Right.
And huge concepts.
And can I tell you, this book was so hard to write.
I bet it's hard to write. It was
the hardest book I've written.
It's probably harder to write.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to get the adult perspective out of there as much as I could and write the experience of these young girls. And I'm older, right? So it's hard to stay in that place and to keep the language like that, but to also have it be beautiful to read, you know? And so to pull that off, there can't be flowery moments of language. Kids aren't going to be patient with that. I mean, it has to be done appropriately for them. And so it should need to be really streamlined, always very, very present with the protagonist, Rill, who is in denial about her situation. So there's that dance also of her being an unreliable narrator simply because she doesn't understand her emotions.
Right. And she's going through something traumatic.
Yeah, it took a long, long, long time to get this book to where I felt like it was right and I had gotten it.
Did Lyrics for Rock Stars writing that help in regards to doing short? And I know you've done other short story writing. Did that help you kind of get to the point, you know, by doing a middle grade novel, get to that part? Did that help?
Well, the truth of the matter is I love writing about kids. I just love writing from that perspective. And I'd written short stories from a child's perspective in Lyrics for Rock Stars, but I hadn't written a book like this. And in all honesty, the thing that determines what kind of, I mean, I'm kind of a nutty writer in that I have 2 young adult books, an adult literary short story collection, and a middle grade. Like I don't write a genre, right? I don't write.
Yeah, you're the blend.
Yeah.
So what you're going to get from me is something, I love craft. So you're going to get something that's going to be similar at the craft level and maybe with some similar thematic things, but they're going to be slide into different marketing niches. But what was I going to say? Hold on, I've lost my thread here. I mentioned the word marketing and I lost my thread.
Yeah, no, because we're talking about going from, you know, writing short stories to writing, you know, helping you write middle grade.
The way every story comes to me is the narrator's voice always arrives first.
Okay.
And so whether it's the young adult books or it's the short stories or this, the narrator arrives and I hang out with the narrator and I listen to them for however long it takes until
and then they lock you away.
Yes, exactly. And so in Rill's case, I mean, she just came and was that, you know, and I just was with her and it was like, okay, this needs to be an 11-year-old narrator, you know. So,
you know, I love it that you have, you know, the characters talking to you and so many authors talk about that. And I wonder back in the day, how many authors had that and people thought they were nuts. Like, but this is, I've been thinking about this because
they put them in the funny farm.
All the conversations we have, it's like, well, the author told me this and where I thought I was going, the protagonist took me here instead. And it sounds like, if you said that about 100 years ago, I wonder what.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but it seems like authors are channeling something that needs to be done. I'm not getting woo woo, but I kind of am.
Yeah,
there's something to it.
Yes, and I'll be honest, I absolutely know when I've got my finger on the thread of that channel. And I know when I'm drifted off of it, and I know when I'm on the pulse and it's ready to go. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So writing this too, I actually think like if I'm not a parent, aren't you lucky? But I would think if I was a parent, I would want to read what my kids are reading.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I would kind of think like, you see, you know, it's like, I'll go, hey, let me get this for my daughter or my son. Or maybe they're coming home with it. And then you go like, let me check it out because you never know. There's marketing, right?
No, but
then you want to check out what your kids are up to, what they're reading, what they're interested in. Not necessarily, you know, is it good or bad for them to read, but it's a way of connecting.
It's self-defense. No, it's self-defense because if you don't read what your children are reading, they're going to ask you questions you can't answer. Oh, it's self-defense. You have to get there first.
Very true. I think this is especially a good book for families to read together. Because it leads to a lot of discussion. I think, it deals with some difficult topics, some really difficult stuff.
Timely.
We tend to want to shield our children from difficult discussions. But the truth of the matter is they're going to find out about them on their own through, overhearing adults talk, or through conversations with other kids at school, or you name it, they're going to have their own experiences. And so if you read things like this, and this is not, I would not call this a heavy novel. And
no, but
it's funny, it's fun,
action packed.
Yeah. And so, but if you address these things in a way that's nurturing ahead of time through reading them and discussion, then it paves the way for being able to, approach those things later in life, and for them to be prepared.
I think that your main character, Rill, you could do a series based on her. And I think it would be a really, I think it'd be a really helpful thing for young adults, especially for girls, because it could be something that a parent would be able, as long as they did their part and read first, that when there's a problem in the household, you could go, hey, do you remember how Rill handled this in this book?
Yeah.
I mean, that really does help parenting a lot, because it takes
it diffuses.
It diffuses a situation, and it puts the child in a place where they can think without so much emotion.
Yes. Yeah.
And they can say, oh yeah, that's what she did there. Well, maybe I should be a little more like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my hopes for the book. Definitely.
That would be cool.
And I'm really hoping it gets into schools, because how powerful to discuss this in a classroom.
Oh yeah.
With the very people that it is happening with. It would take some courage, I think, on the part of teachers to do this in schools. But I really hope that that's, one of the things.
And also with everything that's going on with homeschooling, and, the whole education world has changed and shifted. And a lot of parents have said, you know what, I'm going to keep on with this now. I'm going to keep homeschooling. Again, this is something that where the kids can read it, the parents, the whole family can get involved. And I think they need a discussion point, especially if people are, homeschooling your kids at home and you're at home. You need something exterior to talk about.
Right.
And discuss.
Yeah.
And it's strong. It's strong
too, that she's kind of a tomboy. And by the way, where does that term come from?
Yeah.
Who's Tom?
Yeah. But
ask the who.
Is it like Tomcat?
There's a lot of grafting and talk like that. So I think it can also quite appeal to boys quite a lot too, in that there's a lot of action in the book and things that go on.
That's cool for girls to have that too, because it's always, girls running through the woods and falling down.
Right.
Or, they do that in, horror films. There's a girl or a woman running, and then suddenly she's in high heel shoes. She can't walk in.
And then she screams 3 times and then falls.
I hate it. I can't stand it. Women, I was a tomboy. I was in trees, and it's like that there's nothing has changed.
Right.
I played mostly with the boys.
Yep,
I jumped off roofs for fun. I don't, not to Nancy's happiness, but we would slide off and try and hit we would take paper. Yeah. Just not a really high house, but we would slide down and try and jump up and grab this tree branch. And I don't know why I have ankle problems today, but it was fun. But
she has a lot of my grandmother in her. My little British 4'9" grandmother roller skated off the roof of her house.
See?
What?
Yeah.
So she's got that.
Wow.
It's fun.
Oh,
you do stuff and it's like, but now I'm scared of heights, especially in York State. Those mountain passes, but I'll do it. You know what I mean? But there's that thing that women have and girls have in that conversation. I mean, we are in this gigantic shift of what's going on with our youth, and our youth are smart. I mean, look at them standing up for climate change, what's happening in regards to gun laws. I mean, they are standing up in ways that they just make me feel like, what what was I doing? I was trying to get out of going to school and look at these kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just, they're inspiring, and they make adults go, holy cow, I'm just amazed, awe-inspired by the youth of today. And I think books have a huge part of that,
Books,
of
TV,
giving them that
internet.
can do. Yeah.
Yes.
But talk about Perla, because I think this is really timely. It's crucial. We're going to have more immigration, whether it's legal or illegal, whatever. Everybody's got their political stuff. But this is happening globally, and it's not just politically, it's because of violence, gun violence, depending on where you live. It's about, financial, like, economies, families wanting, to be able to provide for their kids and for their families. There's the whole issue of climate change, where people, whole areas have to move. This is not going to change, and it's just going to get bigger, and compassion should be the forefront.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. And that is my number one goal from the book. Someone asked me, what do you hope people are thinking when they're reading the book? And I said, I hope they're not thinking at all. I hope they're so caught up in the story that they are only feeling empathy. And as they're feeling empathy throughout the story, then what they're learning is how to express and be compassionate by observing this. And so you asked about Perla. And again, avoiding spoilers.
I'm just asking questions and just giving opinions now. I'm not saying anything else.
But so I taught high school back in the late 90s. And I would have immigrant students in the classroom, and it was pretty obvious they were brand new and maybe not there with any legal paperwork, but they were working so hard, and they tried so hard, and it was I was so impressed, where they wouldn't even know English, but they would, and they'd be working after school, but they would just work so hard and be so glad to be there. And some mornings I would come in the school, the front doors. I think there was like 3 or 4 times where a group would be together and their parents had been deported in the night, 1 or 2
Oh
parents
gosh,
stuck.
that's so
Here,
disgusting.
no family. So
wow, that's just horrible.
Now at the high school level, that's a different thing, but it's going on at lower school level too. And
that's
here in the Valley, I mean, it's just a present thing that happens. And so, what happens to those children when their parents are sent home? Do they find other families that they're with? What happens? So what's the story? So regardless of your politics, the truth is there are children that are left here. And it's just kind of, anyway. So what I did when I wanted to write the book, though, I'm very, very cognizant of own voices. This is not a story. This is real story about how indifference and not paying attention can be just as harmful as hate. And so I wanted to make sure that I got Perla's story correct. So I actually worked with a few of those students that I had in high school. One of them so closely, Perla's story is so close to her own that student is actually going to get half of the royalties from the book.
Oh, nice.
She wants to remain anonymous because of the way things are in the world. And she is actually a citizen now and has children of her own and a really vibrant community. But she's going to stay anonymous. But I just wanted to make sure that I got the details right. And so Perla's story is very, very close to her own.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a huge issue. And for Lisa and I, having lived in several different countries, and one country, well, when we went to Kenya, I was supposed to leave, but this gentleman in immigration or whatever he was took my passport, and I didn't realize that he was asking for chai, which means tea. And he was asking for a bribe, and I didn't realize that basically he was asking for $10. I didn't get that, and I'm like, well, I can go home and make you tea or something. And he thought I was being, I was just really dumb because I hadn't gone through this experience of bribery. As an American, you don't bribe. You just don't, because that's.
But over there, that's actually how you get around.
That's how it worked over there. So I mean, he took my passport away, and I really didn't have a passport for a year and a half. And we were only supposed to be there a couple months. And so a year and a half later, I'm teaching school and I'm doing different jobs. I'm teaching art and we're living there because I had to do something. And nobody knew because nobody knew that my passport was sitting in his desk. And eventually I met a lawyer who said, did you ever hear of applying for a duplicate or a replacement passport? I'm like, duh.
Not that we wanted to leave. It was beautiful.
No, we didn't really want to leave because by that time we're like, hey, we got a house and I got jobs and it's cool and we liked it. But I did eventually get a passport. But it, things can happen to people where they're put into situations and other people judge. But unless you've been in a situation, like especially children, whatever their parents are doing, they're the ones that,
they have to go along with it or be the,
right,
of the consequences of what their parents are choosing.
And you can't blame people for wanting to immigrate to this country because for years we said, give us your tired, you're weak. That is what America said to the rest of the world over and over and over. Come on in. We've got place for you. We need workers. Give us your tired, you're weak. We'll help you. That has been what America has said for years. Now all of a sudden it's like, no.
Well, I think, like I was saying, this is a global story.
It is.
I mean, people are moving countries all over, and I know what it's like to be the one who stands out. When we were in Kenya, I was the only white kid in a Black and Indian school, and there were different languages, different tribal and cultural considerations, and they looked at me like, what is that? I was one of the few white kids that some had even seen. And I got spat on, I got hit, I got my shirt lifted up to see if I was a boy or a girl because they didn't understand, because like the Maasai the men have long braided hair, it's mostly with mud and stuff, and the women shave their heads. And so here I am with long blonde hair and a girl, they'd go, this isn't making sense, so the spitting was as a blessing. It's like, I don't know what you are. Don't give me bad juju. They would hit me over the head to try to make me shorter because I'm too tall. Wow. So there were all these
compared to the boys.
And this is young kids, just like, what are you? And at the same time, we all made friends, but it was that, it was the adult thing that made them you know what I mean? It was the adults going, what is that? But then they're like, you're different. But kids in the playground will sort it out.
They
play. We sort it out, It's like, oh, she can kick. Yeah, she kicks like a girl, but she can kick the can around, We can play toys, So it was interesting to always, and having gone through, we think it's 16 schools.
Yeah.
I've always been like the new kid. And then people are interested, and then it's like, oh, now you're one of us, but you're not really, because you weren't here from the beginning, always been the new kid. And it teaches you stuff. It's important. And I think there's a resilience you get, a persistence, a resilience, and hopefully keep your heart open as the person that goes through that, is thinking like more like Perla to, I think, it's hard because it's families. You've got to think about everyone's families being separated and
right.
So I commend you for putting it out there and doing that and raising awareness too, and putting it in a place where families can have that discussion.
Oh,
I think that's exciting and very cool.
I think it will open some parents' eyes who may be, oh, don't play with these people over here. You can play with these over there. Maybe it will open some eyes and some hearts to realize that the more you separate people, the more wars and fighting we're going to have.
Right.
And it doesn't come to any good.
No. One thing I would urge everybody to consider, and I always watch for this in myself, is the moment of judgment when you start judging someone else. And that's a really interesting point, because it's a good time to pull back and say, wow, what is that about within me making me judge that person? And why am I doing that? And usually it's associated with some sort of fear or self-worth. And if you can see past that initial fear and that judgment, suddenly you're more open to life and to meeting people. And, all of a sudden how you are in the world starts to change a little bit, and you have more positive experiences or more positive interactions with people. So I think that moment of judgment and judging, you separate yourself from, the other. That's a really important moment. And that's one that I would encourage everybody to just kind of be aware of. And how we do it, like our entire days, judge. What is that?
Well, but even it's like, I know you're a writer, so you're always like, hearing what people are doing, people, come on, I know you people watch, right? So people, and so what we're doing, we'll sit there and go, this woman just did that, and this, and then you realize you are already, by creating this story, we're already judging. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, because I'll just say, I can tell by this person's hairdo that this is like this, and then I'll be completely wrong.
I mean, do you realize that we judge horses and cows and dogs? We have dog shows where dogs are run on leashes and jump here, jump there, and they're judged by humans. Now, I think it'd be really funny if the dogs judged us.
I think they do. I bet you I can get an extra treat if I do this. I know that they do that.
Well, I just, really, when you think about it, the horse must be this many hands high, and it has to weigh this much, and it should look like that. I mean, really?
Well, I want to say that I think you're really right about this, because the judging is really what's drawn lines in the sand between different, politics, between people, instead of having a discussion. And, I like your book fosters discussion.
Yeah.
Right.
With a character which is not real, but is real, right? So, you know what I mean? But it's somebody separate. It's a book. It's not someone personal, in their family or, in friends. It is a fictional character that they can use for a discussion. So the discussion is far freer and maybe less judgmental, because you still got the fiction element, but it's still brings in all the truth. So I love that part of it, because as we travel the country, we're friends with all sides of the coin, how many sides we all want to have. And we can sit and have a discussion and maybe think, oh, I'll never believe this, until you sit and have a conversation. This is something I learned in South Africa, where people say never learn African politics. Good luck with that, because it's just the way it is. But when you sit with each person, like in a different culture, whether it's Muslim, Hindu, if you are, if you're, as they would say, Cape Coloreds back then, more of Malay descent. When you sit and have all the white Afrikaner versus British, then you have, now we're all mixed, by the way. So that's a whole other thing, blended families. But when you sit and talk to everyone who's fighting, each side makes sense. When you find out what is it that makes them tick, where's their heart? And it's the same in this country. When you really sit down and talk to all sides, what is it that's, is it, everybody does indeed actually care about kids, unless you're a psychopath. You care about kids, right? So if we can kind of go back to that caring part, then we have a place of discussion. And that's where stories come in to help that. They foster that getting back to the heart.
I think we're so fear-based on a lot of issues. So something's different. First instinct, which is probably very human, is to be wary and to be a bit afraid until you find out what that is, that thing that you're scared of. That's part of survival tactics, is to be wary, to be a little scared, and then maybe to be on the offense, possibly, depending on how the other thing is moving. So part of it's human nature for survival, but we're supposed to be able to control our thoughts and our emotions.
And I think I read somewhere a long time ago that that's the difference between animal and human. You know, is that being able to step in that moment of reaction and say, oh, okay, and slow it down and to look at what's actually going on and read through that. Yeah.
I have a question that's completely off on a different tangent. You know, you're talking about the channeling of you know, your characters and thinking of them. Now, I know you do a lot of skiing, hiking, cycling. You're like a crazy cyclist across the country or whatever, all over the place, right? So you're out in nature, you do yoga, all of this, right? All of that requires some kind of focus and zone to not fall off the bike, not crash into a tree, you know, that kind of thing. Does that help you with your writing? Do you ever, I mean, or is it completely clear? Does it help you getting the physical aspect help you clear your mind by getting whatever, because being physical, like there's that whole saying, like go exercise, work out before you have Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner with your family, because you get whatever's going on, you sweat it out. Sweat it out before you see
you
them,
won't
right?
fall asleep
So,
after you eat.
does all the activity, the physical activity, help you center in writing? But do you ever, because you're out in a different, you're out of that different zone, you know, you're out of your cabin in your writing room, your writing attic, open up other kind of portals for more characters to go, hey, I want to be on a bicycle too. Put me on a bicycle, you know?
Well, you know, it's fun. I think a lot of times when I'm stuck in a story or I'm working on a novel right now that is so hard to write, and often, yes, getting out and getting exercise and being outside helps me work through all of the intricacies of what's going on in it. And yes, things will come to me very much so when I'm out exercising. And it's very, very helpful. I think the thing, and I don't want to sound like too much of a woo-woo, but you know, I think yoga is the thing that has helped my writing the most, and has actually, my career has taken off quite a lot since I started doing yoga. Like a few months into it, I was nominated for the Colorado Book Awards, you know, and things like that. I think part of it is, as I mentioned before, I think if you're, how would I say, it brought me into, and it could be any activity that you could do, but for me, this is what it was. Yoga brought me into places of introspection where I could really look at those moments of judgment, so to speak, or how I am in the world. And it kind of changed my energy that I was giving off.
Balance.
The world, and it brought balance. So there was much more positive. I was much more positive, and it helped me deal with a lot of things from my childhood that were difficult and things. So even though that's a great writer's child, I had a great writer's childhood, and it has generated a lot of stories. It allowed me to release a lot of like sort of negative feelings. The other thing that has happened through that is that I was able to recognize and even see on the page, we are all speaking, moving, talking around our issues. Like everything we say is stored stuff we've had in our life and our emotions, and we are constantly navigating around them. And so through that, I was able to start just really directly expressing myself on the page and seeing even how my words were coming on the page, how they were working around some emotional stuff that I had. And so then I was able to straighten it out on the page and get rid of my stuff on the page.
Yeah, so play it out.
It was more directly and clearly down there for the reader's sake and the protagonist's sake. So it's really interesting. And now, you know, I work with other writers, and I'm mentoring another writer right now, and you can just see where people are writing circles around their stuff. And you can just say, okay, was this serving the story?
But I think that's what artists do when they paint. That's what musicians do. I think that when people go to the creative realm, it gives them the channel to do what maybe they're not ready to say up front.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you play it through until you get to the point where you can say, oh, I see this happened, and that's how I felt, and I'm over it now.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a hiding place.
Yeah.
Creativity could be a hiding spot,
because there's some things, you just,
Wow.
it's really true. There are some things you just don't want to talk about that may have happened, and you can't, you're not ready. So artistic endeavors really channel that.
Yes, yes. And I think we'd be a more peaceful country if we had more ways for people to artistically express themselves.
It's better
No
than
kidding.
putting your
Oh.
fists through the wall.
And exercise.
It's better than violence.
I should say that to myself. But if we don't walk every day, I can tell the whole difference just in my thought pattern.
Yeah.
Walking is such a
She gets cranky.
I am. I am. No, because I really love to walk because
yes,
you see things, it's so good for you, and the thoughts that come, like the first early morning. I mean, as we travel, we're pet and house sitting. It's the coolest thing. You're walking dogs and you will be present. You can't sit. I see people talk on their phone with their dog, and I'm like, that dog is gonna either go wee wee on your leg, or it's gonna do something, and you're not gonna know. You know what I mean? It's like you have to be present because something could happen. And things do happen. So it's kind of this, it will make you be, and it's, I don't know, it's a great way to start your day off, just that's just my own personal thing. But that's really cool about, I think everyone finds their thing, whether it's hiking, walking, yoga, you've got to have that thing that helps. Last question too is, this being a middle grade book, did you have middle grade readers read, like as beta readers, to check it out?
I had a couple of them read, yes. And then what's really been touching for me is I have had, it's going into a lot of schools, honestly, already, and being considered by teachers. And I've had a few teachers, give it to their students from their classes and say, what do you think with this work? And I've been so touched. I mean, they have loved it. Up through 8th grade. I mean, there was a review from a girl here in the Valley. I don't know her, and I don't really know this teacher, but the teacher was kind enough to send it on to me, and she was just loved the book.
Oh, wow.
So I'm so pleased with, I just hope it does the work that I wrote it to do. I hope that it brings that compassion.
I think it's going to make a difference.
I hope, yeah.
Person by person by person.
Yeah, that's my goal. One read
at
a time.
The ripple effect. Very cool. Well,
Very
are you
cool.
going to do book club meetings? I mean, Zoom meetings with, would you do it with youth, or would you have like kids?
Absolutely. School visits.
Yeah, because I mean, you're a teacher and everything. So
Library
that's
visits, book clubs, you name it. If parents get together a group, or parents and their kids get together groups, absolutely, they can get a hold of me on my website. There's a contact link there, and they can get a hold of me, and I'm happy to schedule and do discussions.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome. Everyone, again, the book is The River Between Hearts. And I told you there was a river there. But, everyone, again, it's out February 1st, 2022. So go to Author-Heather-Mateus-Sappenfield.com. Is that good? Did I get it?
Perfect. You got it.
See, that's how I would originally pronounce it. So don't second guess. See, don't judge yourself.
That's
but
it.
judge yourself. All right. And also you can follow Heather on Twitter, Alpine Heather. She's on Facebook under her name, and Instagram as well. And thank you all for joining us here on Big Blend Radio. We air daily except for major holidays. And sometimes we do that too. Who knows? But keep up with our schedule at bigblendradio.com. Thanks so much. It's so good to see you again, Heather.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
and
lady.
keep us posted on the next novel.
Yes, I want a copy.
Okay.
Awesome.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.